What did you do as a teenager that you will never tell your parents? All those times I sarcastically answered smoke the reefer to the question of what I was going out to do, I was actually telling the truth. I legit used Photoshop to change my grades on a bad report card once. They never figured it out. I used Inspect Element to change my bank account information when my mother demanded to see how much money I had and what I'd bought recently. Somehow over the next month or two I managed to fudge the numbers enough that she never figured it out. I don't miss having my parents spying on my finances, but I also don't miss being so financially irresponsible as I was in my teens. My mom still recalls this one day when I was unusually positive and talkative with her. It's because I was high out of my mind on Ritalin. I really didn't want to do PE one day, but I didn't have a good reason, so I knew my dad wouldn't write me a note. So what I did instead was get a plain piece of paper and asked him to sign it, because we're doing a thing in English where we try to guess the personality of a person from their signature, which he totally bought. I then went to the printer and typed out your standard sick note, stuck the signed plain paper into the printer so when the note printed my dad's signature would appear at the bottom. I will probably tell my dad this at some point because I'm actually kinda proud of myself for pulling it off. My sister is amazing at copying other people's handwriting. She used to make some serious coin when we were in high school. Got a lot of people out of school for the day. When I was 13, a friend of mine used to steal his mom's muscle relaxers and split them with me at school, and some of those days I would have my dad pick me up because I wasn't feeling too great, but I did indeed feel great. I had a classmate senior year who brought them at school. You could see in his eyes that he was always out of his mind. My mom let my friends all come over the night after graduation. Believe it or not, she got together with the other moms for us to have a little party, complete with a few malt beverages and beer. We gave my mom all our keys. We turned up the music. We got out a table. We proceeded to play D&D all night. My mom still thinks we got drunk. It would break her heart to know the truth. My parents were both out of town but left the car with keys in kitchen. Anyway, I was 16, just learned how to drive, and this girl texted me to come pick her up and come back to my place. 10 minutes later I'm grabbing the keys and driving across town in a car that I shouldn't be in with no license. They are never gonna find that one out. I took my dad's manual car out for a ride a few weeks after he tried teaching me it. I only managed to stall it once, and when I did I seemed like a pro getting it going again. Was trying to convince my dad to buy me a new computer for college. He doesn't exactly like the fact that I play video games due to the Asian Middle Eastern mentality of study till you die, but I'd been doing it for so long he begrudgingly accepted it after realizing it wasn't just a phase. However, he made it clear that he would only buy a computer for the express purpose of helping me get a computer science degree. Shocker, right? Unfortunately, he wasn't tech savvy at all. So I searched online stores until I found a laptop that I wanted to replace my old crappy one with. It was an $800 Asus gaming laptop with middle of the road specs for the time. There was no way he would ever buy me a laptop that was built for the express purpose of gaming. So I used Inspect Element to replace all instances of the word gaming on the product page with the word studying, and made sure not to reload the page when showing it to him. It would change the words back into gaming. It worked, and within 1 week I got my new studying computer. My time to shine. My senior year of high school I snuck out of the house at like 2 AM to get some. My parents were a little psycho and put bells on the front and back doors, you know, in case of burglars. But they didn't put them on the laundry room door, which led to the garage. The garage had a side door in it that led outside. So obviously that was my way out. The problem with that side door is that it's a bit hard to tell when it's locked, since you can always get out but not necessarily back in. So, me being stupid and frisky, just assumed it was fine and went along my merry way. Did the deed. Then when I tried to get back and I found the door locked. Crap, I tried every other possible entrance, all locked. But I had my phone and an idea so crazy it just might work. I called my mom and in my best helpless daughter voice cried, "Mommy, I woke up in the front yard and the door is locked." I'm so scared she came right out and got me. I mumbled something about sleepwalking. Then she made me waffles since I was so distressed. My mom still tells the story at family get-togethers. I now have a reputation as a crazy sleepwalker. That time I came home on the eve of my 17th birthday and you said I looked different and I said it was because I'm older now. It was because my pupils were blown out and I was on acid. That it was me who looked at pee in the family computer, not my brother. So did your brother. When I got my first cell phone, a Nexus 5, my parents kinda went nuts with the whole plugged in and turned off in the living room at night thing. Knowing them, it was probably an anti-pee measure. Unfortunately for them, my 3DS hadn't a half decent internet brah. Really strict parents of my friends was not allowed to go on the internet on his 3DS because of this. Don't get me wrong, he was an innocent kid, but was only allowed half an hour a day on it. A friend from high school and I snuck out with her boyfriend who could drive when I was 14. She was 15. He let her drive the car and she crashed it. It was his dad's car, his car apparently being in the shop. I didn't really get too hurt besides some bruises, but we had to walk 7 miles home at 3 AM. We got home right before anyone got up. What happened with the boyfriend? When I was about 15, I took half an eighth of mushrooms and maybe 8 or more corisodine pills and went downstairs to watch a movie with my parents. My parents were always fighting back then. They really hated each other and I hated them as well, but for some reason, that night was very pleasant. We were all laughing and joking and having a genuinely good time. Meanwhile, the walls around them were breathing and the carpet was swirling beneath me. I was having trouble focusing on their faces. That would be the corisodine, but I wasn't in the least bit paranoid that they may know I was high. It was an extremely strange night. My dad and I are friends now and we've talked about our drug use when we were younger. He was getting high in his room while I was getting high in mine, and angrily taking my weed when he caught me and smoking it himself. Apparently my mom was the one who was adamantly anti-drug. Dad just put on a show for her sake, but for some reason, I've never mentioned that night to him. Plot twist, your parents weren't even home and you were having a conversation with a lamp and a candle. Rushing out of church to be sick with food poisoning when I was 14. Lots of people consoling me and being driven home early. I was very hungover. Yeah, I feel this. I fricked my couch while on acid. Same, except I was sober. I snuck out a few times to have alone times with a high school girlfriend. Only got caught once. Modern cars are so quiet. Teenagers now just don't know the struggle of trying to keep an old slant 6 from waking your parents. When I was in high school, I would push my truck out of the driveway and down the street so my parents couldn't hear it start up. The time I found their home movie when I was looking for something to enjoy alone. I used to intern at a radio station. One day, I told my parents that I was going to go early to sit in on an editorial meeting. Instead, I took a bus an hour south to interview a felon about her experiences with solitary confinement and prison debt for a piece I was working on. They think this interview took place at the station. If they found out the truth now, they would probably get a heart attack. Snuck out of the house with a friend while I was staying over with her to meet a group of boys. She hooked up with one of them in a truck while the rest of us, me and the other 2 guys, hung around in the desert at night trying not to notice the truck rocking back and forth. I must have been 14 or so. Never did anything like that before or since. I went with her BC. I was afraid she'd get in trouble with the boys by herself, so I wanted to watch over her. We got caught by her parents who told me they were going to tell my parents. I prepared to be grounded for life. Then her dad changed his mind and told me I was a good kid and he would let this one go, but we had better not sneak out of his house again. Needless to say, he went through this a lot with his daughter. I never told my parents and never will, lol. And I'm 28 now. They think I only snuck out at night twice, but that's because I only got caught twice. Snuck out all the dang time. I looked up P on the family computer because I knew they'd blame my brother. He was in butthole and we didn't get along, so whenever he'd pee me off, I'd look up P. I didn't even watch it, just Google some tea so it would show on the search history. One time he ruined my school project, so I looked up some bondage and really torturous BDSM stuff. Then when my mom went through the search history, she'd find it, tell my dad, and they'd freak out on him. They never knew it was their Catholic school attending daughter being a spiteful crap. Going on dates with girls. Kissing girls. You know, the usual for a 16-year-old supposed Muslim girl. Yeah, would get myself killed if I told them. Absolutely haram. I did a lot of DMT in high school. When my parents asked where I was going, I always said no idea. Probably another dimension. I'm sure they knew I was smoking pot, but I'm positive that they have no idea what dimethyltryptamine is or what it does. Me neither. When I was 17 I would go visit my friend's sister at her college. I told my mom we were doing innocent activities like seeing movies and going to dinner. Really, I was getting wasted with my 19-year-old boyfriend who also went to school there. I never planned to tell my mom, but she picked me and my now husband up from a wedding this summer. We were pretty drunk and he says, "This is how drunk we used to get when I first met you, thanks honey." Got an ass tab of the Price is Right logo. Finally caved and told dad, but mom will never hear of this, ever. The retail price for that ass is. By the end of my senior year of high school, I racked up 26 detentions for going to first period for 10 minutes and then just leaving for the rest of the day. My mom thought I was in an after school club called Decide Against Bullying in Schools, aka DABS, which is what I was actually doing every time I skipped. I miss high school me. You. Okay mom, just gonna head out to my DABS sesh. Mom. Okay sweetie. Have fun turns to friend. God, he's such a good kid. Every time he goes to those sessions he gets so tuckered out. He works so hard his eyes are bloodshot every time he gets home. When I was 18 I flew to Portugal to meet my boyfriend at the time, who was over there for the summer. One day we decided, frick it, this particular city is cool but let's go exploring. So we packed up our belongings, walked out to the edge of the city, and started hitchhiking. About a week and a half later we've passed through Portugal, Spain, and most of France, and my scumbag boyfriend decides he needs to find himself some bulls and dumps me in a petrol station in eastern France. So I wind up staying with some lovely Buddhists who are on a retreat in the mountains, then hitch various lifts back to Spain, and fly home. When I got home my parents asked me if I got up to anything fun. I said we did some traveling by train. I'm almost 30 now and it's still a secret. It's an interesting story but I was so freaking lucky it went relatively okay. I could have been one of those kids who goes missing or gets murdered. What a dong that guy was. The clean clothes on the floor was there, not only because I was a lazy schlob, but my closet was a mushroom farm. I guess your room really was so dirty it was growing mold. I sniffed paint every day after school for like 6 months straight. That explains a lot. I showed my boobs to way too many guys on the internet. I used to steal and snort my mom's painkillers, initially to try to understand why she did it, how she experienced life. After 2 weeks I noticed I was walking around like a zombie the way she had my whole life. Haven't touched the little devils since. Good. My parents know I smoke weed. They have no idea how much weed, and they never will. Living at home with my parents after college, and this is me exactly. They caught me within a week and decided they'd allow it as long as it was only occasional use. My use is quite occasional in that the occasion occurs multiple times a day. Mid-teens. Went to an unsupervised birthday party with a mixed group of friends, boys and girls. Birthday girl wants to play truth or dare. Hahaha, cute, right? It got grown up real fast. Long story short, we all watched each other have sex. Bonus. Years later my brother dated the rando girl I nailed. He brought her over to meet the family. We recognized each other, but said nothing. Just shared a horrifying silence. When they were leaving, I heard my brother ask her if she got to meet me. She replied, "Oh yeah, I got to meet him." I cringed, and have never stopped cringing. I grew magic mushrooms out in the open. I told her it was a science fair project. I was 13. I spent my first semester of university overseas in Egypt. Had just turned 18. Conditions on the campus during that time weren't very stable, and there was so much drama, workers' strikes, disease scares, power outages, etc., that I ended up spending very little time in the classroom. For those who don't know, Cairo is huge, the largest city in Africa and the Middle East. It makes Manhattan look like a little village. I want to say there are close to 10 million people living there, but even official government censuses are unable to get accurate data due to its size, which is always expanding. Anyway, I spent many nights doing all sorts of stuff that in retrospect seems really stupid. I spoke almost no Arabic, so I'd take a bus or taxi to the outskirts of town late at night and just walk around trying to talk with strangers. If I had tried this anywhere in the States, people would mistake me for a raving lunatic. Sometimes I'd meet a group of strangers and they'd invite me to go somewhere with them, so I'd just jump in their car and ride around all night. I ended up at parties in other towns, house music shows in the basements of foreign embassies, mosques, huge supermarkets, and lots of random hotels with swimming pools. There were so many people involved on these nightly adventures that I can't even remember them all or keep the names and faces straight. Never got to learn how old most of them were. Some were my own age and others considerably older, what they did for a living, or much of anything else about who they really were. They just offered to take me along for the ride. I didn't drink alcohol or use any drugs during that time, but there are still entire weeks that are now a blur to me. I did very little sleeping. Two memories that stand out in my mind are walking around the top floor of a dilapidated high-rise hotel and stumbling upon a seedy exotic animal dealer in the basement of an apartment building. He sold all kinds of endangered animals captured in sub-Saharan Africa, including lion cubs. I'd go into the weirdest shops and meet the craziest people. There was a young couple, 30s, whom I am especially thankful to have known. They spoke good English, and the man had a British accent. They used to drive me all over at night to these huge, sprawling neighborhoods where we'd just walk the streets. I think I met them at a mall. There was another guy whom everyone else seemed nervous around. I called him the pirate. Good times, but I'd never try that again. I used to sneak out and do stupid stuff with my friends in the neighborhood. Not drugs or drinking, but stealing stop signs, egging a house once, laying on the golf course and shooting the crap. I honestly though my folks knew about it and that they were just of the kids will be kids mentality. I even got a ride home with the local police once or twice. But no, my parents had no freaking clue what I was up to. I don't want to tell them not because I worry about what they think of me, but rather that they would blame themselves for not seeing it. Mom, I'm not falling for that trick again. When I go to music festivals, I tell my mom I'm camping. Meanwhile, 3 doses later. When her parents came home early, I snuck out the window and jumped off the roof of my first girlfriend's house. Sometimes I still feel it in my knees. Avoided detection though. Besides the smoking, drinking, promiscuity, I lied about graduating the equivalent junior college. I even made a fake diploma and transcript. You have been visited by the snake of great corn. You will be blessed with corn for eternities to come, but only if you comment, "Corn me up, snake." If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check out another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.